He tested her love by pretending to be poor. What she did in the next 24 hours proved his worst fears were true. Rain fell over Manhattan like tears from the sky, each drop tapping against the bulletproof windows of Alexander's apartment like little knocks of reality. From the 30th floor, the city looked like a carpet of diamonds, luxury cars, star-rated restaurants, stores where a pair of shoes cost more than the tuition at the school he had attended. But Alexander did not see the beauty. His eyes were fixed on the glass, where his reflection stared back at him, a 35-year-old man with everything money could buy in a void that no million could fill. "She is late again," Sophia noted, entering the room with 2 whiskeys. Her younger sister had always known when he needed silent company. Meeting with the decorator. The Swarovski crystal chandelier for the wedding arrived from Austria. "It costs the same as our childhood home." Alexander took the glass, his fingers finding the familiar grooves of Irish crystal. "Do you remember our first night together?" he asked, his voice as soft as the rain outside. "Pizza out of the box, wine from a plastic bottle, and she laughed until she cried at my bad jokes." Sophia offered a sad smile. "Before success. Before money changed everything." That was when Isabella walked in, bringing the breath of French perfume and the energy of someone who had just spent 5 digits on things Alexander did not even know existed. Her eyes shone, not at the sight of him, but as she displayed the sample of Italian silk for the curtains in the bridal suite. "Darling, you cannot imagine. I found the perfect fabric. It is imported fro. Do you remember our promise?" "Bella?" Alexander interrupted gently. "The one that no matter how much we had, we would always be those 2 people eating pizza on the floor?" The brightness in Isabella's eyes dimmed slightly. "Of course I do, love. But now we can have pizza on porcelain plates, is that not better?" It was always the same answer. The soft refusal of a simple past in favor of a luxurious present. Alexander watched as she took off the fur coat, his gift last month, and his hand drifted to the pocket of his jacket, where he kept their photo from the camping trip 2 years ago, faces dirty and smiles genuine. Sophia watched the scene with eyes that saw too much. "She loves you, Alex. The question is, does she love the man or the lifestyle?" The doubt that Alexander had fed in secret for months now had a voice. Every dinner at an expensive restaurant where Isabella seemed more interested in the menu than in the conversation. Every trip where she posted more photos of the hotels than of their moments together. Every time he tried to talk about simplifying, about giving away part of the fortune, about living with less, and saw the disinterest in her eyes. "What if we tested it?" Sophia whispered, as if reading his thoughts. "Not to trap her, but to be sure. So you can marry in peace." Alexander looked at Isabella, now animatedly showing marble samples for the bathrooms, her eyes shining with the same intensity they had when he gave her the engagement ring. And he asked himself the question that haunts every wealthy person who has ever doubted their own worth. If the money vanished, would the love stay? The answer, he knew, could destroy not only a wedding but his belief in love itself. But the doubt had been planted, growing like weeds in a perfect garden. And some truths, even painful ones, are better found before the I do than after. He designed the perfect test for her love, not knowing he was about to fail the most important test of all. Alexander's office smelled of fine wood and hard truths. Sophia closed the door with a soft click, isolating them from the outside world where Isabella was choosing between French and Italian crystal for the champagne flutes. "We need 2 men," Sophia began, opening her laptop on top of the massive oak desk that had cost more than both of their college educations. One representing everything she seems to value. Another representing you without the fortune. Alexander sank into his chair, his eyes on the screen where Sophia already had profiles ready. Marco, his childhood friend, appeared as Marcos Montenegro, a billionaire investor from Dubai with a private jet and a fortune that made Alexander's look like pocket change. "And you," Sophia continued, switching to another folder, "will be Alessandro. A former employee who lost everything in bad investments. No home, no car, no future." The photos of Alexander in simple clothes, hair unkempt, posture bent, it was a distorted mirror of who he might have been if the startup had never taken off. Something in his stomach tightened as he saw his own image transformed into a failure. "It is cruel, Sophia," he protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "Setting a trap for the woman I love. It is more cruel to marry with doubts," she cut in, her eyes serious. "Do you want to spend your life wondering if she would stay if you lost everything? Or would you rather know the truth before you say yes?" The logic was relentless. Alexander looked out the window, where Central Park spread like a green carpet below them. All of it, the apartment, the view, the lifestyle, could disappear in a blink. Markets crash, empires fall, fortunes evaporate. What would remain when the money was gone? "How does it work?" he asked, his surrender as subtle as it was significant. Sophia smiled, a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Marco approaches her at the club tomorrow. An investor interested in buying your company. Rich, powerful, everything she admires. You show up here tomorrow night. Desperate after losing it all. We watch her choice." She laid out the details, the clothes Alexander would wear, borrowed from a building porter. The story you would tell, bad decisions, debt, the need to start over from scratch. The hidden cameras that would record every reaction, every micro-expression, every hesitation. "And if she chooses right?" Alexander asked, almost begging for hope. "Then you marry in peace, knowing you have a partner for life, for richer or for poorer." But in Sophia's eyes, Alexander saw that she already had the answer. His sister had always mistrusted Isabella, since the first meeting when the fashion student noticed Alexander's watch before she noticed his eyes. While he practiced his performance as Alessandro in the bathroom mirror, Alexander watched a man who could have been him, older, more tired, shoulders curved under the weight of failure. And he realized that his greatest fear was not that Isabella would reject him for being poor, it was that she would confirm she had never loved him for who he was, only for what he had. Sophia watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "Do you remember Dad?" she asked softly. "How Mom left when the company went under." Some women love the provider, not the man. The memory of their father, destroyed not by bankruptcy but by his wife's abandonment when he needed her most, hit Alexander like a punch. That was the ghost that haunted him, not losing the money, but losing love when the money was gone. The plan was set. The pieces, in place. The stage, prepared. All that remained was to see which truth would emerge, whether Isabella's love was strong enough to survive poverty, or fragile enough to die with wealth. And Alexander, looking at his reflection as a poor man in the mirror, feared he already knew the answer. The wealthy investor hit on her, and she smiled in a way she had never smiled at her fiancé. The exclusive club breathed an air of ancestral privilege, where new money still smelled like effort and old money smelled like inheritance. Isabella moved through the room with the grace of someone born for that world, her silk dress costing more than the furniture in the house where she had grown up. She was in her element, surrounded by beautiful things and important people, every detail confirming she belonged to that reality. Sophia watched from the bar, her untouched drink serving as an excuse for her discreet presence. Her eyes followed Isabella as she laughed with friends, her fluid gestures telling stories of shopping in Paris and dinners in Saint-Tropez. Everything Alexander had offered, she had embraced with an enthusiasm that sometimes seemed greater than her enthusiasm for him. That was when Marco made his calculated entrance. Wearing a suit that cost more than many members' cars, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of the truly wealthy, those who had nothing to prove. His movements were measured, every gesture choreographed to convey power and access. Sophia saw the exact moment Isabella noticed Marco. Her eyes made the automatic scan that women accustomed to luxury learn to perform, the quality of the fabric, the impeccable cut, the discreet but unmistakably expensive watch on his wrist. Something in her posture shifted, a sharper attention, an interest that went beyond social curiosity. Marco approached with a natural elegance that months of preparation could never fully teach. He greeted the group with a slight inclination of his head, his eyes meeting Isabella's for a fraction longer than politeness required. The introduction came through a mutual friend, part of Sophia's meticulous plan. As Marco spoke with the group, his attention gradually narrowed to Isabella. He asked about her interests, her opinions, her tastes, with the intensity of someone who truly wished to know the person behind the beauty. And Isabella answered with a brightness in her eyes that Sophia had never seen when she and Alexander spoke about simple things. The conversation flowed to investments, to business opportunities, to the world of the very rich where Marco supposedly swam like a fish in its native waters. He mentioned, almost casually, his interest in technology companies, in buying stakes, in turning millions into billions. With every word, Isabella seemed more captivated, more interested, more available. Sophia watched as Marco invited Isabella to dance. On the floor, their bodies moved in sync, their smiles were easy and frequent, their talk intimate and full of rapport. There was chemistry there that hurt to witness, the chemistry of two people who shared the same world, the same ambitions, the same appetite for life at the top. At one point, Marco whispered something in Isabella's ear, and she laughed, a genuine, unburdened laugh, the kind she used to share with Alexander in the early months before money complicated everything. Her eyes shone in a different way, livelier, more present. Sophia filmed discreetly, capturing every moment, every exchanged look, every shared smile. She caught the way Isabella tilted her head while listening to Marco, an intimate gesture she once reserved for Alexander. She saw their fingers lightly touch as they passed a champagne flute, a fleeting contact that lasted a second longer than accidental. When the music ended and Marco said goodbye with a kiss on her hand that made Isabella blush, Sophia knew the first part of the plan had worked perfectly. The wealthy investor had captured the bride-to-be's attention with the promise of an even more glamorous, even more exclusive, even more expensive world. And the worst part, Isabella seemed to have enjoyed it. Her eyes followed Marco out of the room with an expression Sophia knew too well. It was the same look Isabella wore when Alexander announced a new acquisition or a profitable investment. Admiration for the conqueror, the provider, the man who could offer the world on a silver tray. As Isabella returned to her friends with a smile still echoing from the encounter, Sophia sent Alexander a simple message: Phase 1 complete. She took the bait. The trap was set. The stage dressed. And Isabella, unaware, was walking straight into a test that would reveal not only her character, but the most painful truth about what really mattered to her when love and luxury collided. He showed up as a poor man, and watched her love die in her eyes. Rain fell over New York as if the sky were crying in advance for the truth about to be revealed. Alexander arrived at the apartment he shared with Isabella wearing clothes borrowed from a janitor, faded jeans, a threadbare shirt, a coat that smelled of hard work and despair. Each step down the luxurious corridor was an exercise in humiliation, each neighbor's glance a small cut to his pride. He found Isabella in the living room, still wearing the same expensive dress from the club, her face lit by the remnants of a glamorous night. When she saw him, her smile froze, replaced by genuine confusion. "Alex? My God, what happened? Are you all right?" Her initial concern seemed real, and for a moment, Alexander felt a stab of hope. Perhaps he had misjudged his fiancée. Perhaps love was stronger than his insecurities. Then he began his performance, his trembling voice telling the story he and Sophia had prepared: bad investments, mounting debt, the company on the brink of collapse, the fortune evaporated like smoke. As he spoke, he watched every micro-expression on Isabella's face, every small sign of what truly mattered to her. The transformation was gradual but merciless. First came disbelief, then shock, then silent calculation. Alexander saw the moment reality struck Isabella, not the reality of his suffering, but the reality of her own compromised future. Her eyes, which moments earlier had gleamed with the memory of her encounter with Marco, now scanned Alexander as if he were a stranger, a problem to be solved. "Everything?" she asked, her voice weaker. "The apartment? The investments? The company?" Every question concerned possessions, assets, the lifestyle vanishing before her eyes. No question about how he was, about his emotional state, about what it felt like to lose all he had built. When Alexander confirmed that yes, everything was gone, that they would have to start over from scratch, he saw something die in Isabella's eyes. It was not love that disappeared, it was interest. It was the gleam of someone who sees opportunities, replaced by the emptiness of someone watching doors slam shut. "Start over from scratch?" she repeated, as if the words were in a foreign language. "Alex, we have the wedding in 2 months. Invitations have already been sent. Reservations made. Deposits paid." She did not mention love. She did not say she would stay no matter what. Instead, she began to list every financial commitment that would have to be canceled, every deposit lost, every person who would be disappointed. Alexander watched, his heart breaking in slow motion, as Isabella turned his personal tragedy into a list of social inconveniences. She spoke about the non-refundable wedding dress, the canceled honeymoon, about what friends would say, about how embarrassing it would be to explain that the millionaire was now a ruined man. At a certain point, she stopped, her eyes meeting his with a coldness he had never seen before. "Alex," she said, her voice practical now, hard. "I cannot start over from scratch. Not after everything I have achieved. Not after working so hard to get here." The words echoed through the silent room, each a confirmation of Alexander's worst fears. She did not see a partner in trouble, she saw an obstacle to her lifestyle. She did not see the man she loved, she saw a financial problem. And then, as if adding salt to the wound, she casually mentioned the encounter with Marco. "I met an investor at the club today. Perhaps he can help. He seems to have resources." The suggestion came heavy with subtext, the possibility of trading a ruined man for a successful one, an uncertain future for a guaranteed one. Alexander saw in her eyes that the decision had been made. The test was complete. And he had failed, or rather, their love had failed the moment the money disappeared. While Isabella continued listing all the reasons she could not start over from scratch, Alexander grasped the most painful truth: she had never loved the man, she had loved the provider. And when the provider failed, love melted away like snow in the sun. The reveal was brutal, but the truth that followed was even worse. The apartment seemed frozen in time, every luxury object now a silent witness to the collapse of a love that Alexander was discovering had never truly existed. Isabella kept talking, her voice a steady river of practical concerns about lost deposits and canceled commitments, utterly unaware of the emotional earthquake her words were causing in the man who was supposed to be her future husband. Alexander stood slowly, his movements heavy as if carrying the weight of all the millions he supposedly had lost. He walked to the window, his back to Isabella, and for a moment he simply watched the city outside, the same city that had witnessed his meteoric rise and would now witness his most intimate fall. "Bella," he said, his voice so soft it nearly disappeared in the vast room, "there is something I need to tell you." He turned, and something in his posture made Isabella stop mid-sentence about the catering refund. Her eyes narrowed slightly, a spark of curiosity replacing the practical frustration. Alexander walked to the sofa where they sat and picked up the remote for the flat-screen television. With a gentle click, the motorized curtains began to close, plunging the room into a dramatic half-light. Another click, and the screen lit up with the recordings of Isabella's encounter with Marco at the club. For a long moment, there was no sound but Isabella's uneven breathing as she watched herself laughing, dancing, flirting with the man she believed to be a billionaire investor. Alexander watched her face pass through a rapid succession of emotions, first confusion, then comprehension, then anger, and finally a silent panic that seemed almost tangible in the charged air between them. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling, but Alexander only pointed to the screen where Marco now whispered in her ear, making her laugh in that special way she once saved only for him. That was when Alexander began to change before her eyes. He straightened his shoulders, once curved under the fictional weight of failure. He pushed up the sleeves of the threadbare shirt, revealing the Patek Philippe watch he had hidden. He ran his fingers through his hair, undoing the cheap gel's careless disarray. When he finally lifted his eyes to meet hers, there was no trace of the defeated man, only the confident millionaire she knew, with a coldness in his gaze that made her flinch. "The test is over, Isabella," he said, his voice firm now, clear, carrying all the authority of someone who had never lost a cent. "And you failed. Spectacularly." Understanding hit Isabella like a physical shock. Her eyes traveled up and down Alexander, seeing now the inconsistencies she had missed, the quality of skin beneath the makeup of dirt, the natural posture of power that no worn shirt could conceal, the eyes that now shone with sharp intelligence instead of feigned despair. Was it all a lie? she whispered, her hands trembling. The bankruptcy? The debts? Everything? Alexander nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. Everything. Every word. Every fake tear. Every supposed loss. All to answer a simple question. Do you love me for who I am or for what I have? He paused, letting the weight of the question hang between them like a sword. And now we have the answer, do we not? Isabella seemed to shrink before him, her once elegant body now curved under the weight of shame and anger. She looked at the footage still playing on the television, at herself smiling at Marco, and then at Alexander, her face a mask ripped off. How could you? She shouted, her voice rising. How could you test me like this? Trap me? Deceive me? Alexander laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Deceive you? Isabella, you were literally considering trading me for another man because you thought I was ruined. In less than an hour, you showed that our love is worth less than your credit card. He walked to the table where the wedding invitations lay, took one, and examined it for a moment before tearing it cleanly in half. The wedding is canceled, he declared, his voice as final as the sound of ripping paper. I will not marry someone who loves my money more than me. The words echoed through the silent room, each a nail in the coffin of their relationship. Isabella stood paralyzed, her eyes darting between Alexander and the recordings on the screen, as if searching for a way out, an explanation, anything that could undo the last minutes. But the truth was inescapable, as clear and bright as the diamonds she loved so much. She had failed the test. And Alexander, upon discovering that his worst fears were grounded, had lost not only a bride, but also the belief that he could be loved for who he was rather than for what he possessed. He thought he had won the test, until he discovered he had been testing the wrong person all along. The silence that settled after Alexander's reveal was unlike anything he had ever felt. It was not the silence of shame or defeat, but something deeper, more deliberate. Isabella remained still for a long moment, her eyes fixed on him not with rage or humiliation, but with a clarity that made something in his stomach tighten. Instead of retreating or exploding, she walked to the velvet armchair with a grace almost unnatural for the moment. Her movements were deliberate, measured, like a chess player who knows exactly how many moves ahead she is. You must feel very clever, she said at last, her voice as soft as the fabric beneath her fingers. Having discovered my true nature. Having proved your suspicions. A chill ran down Alexander's spine. Something was wrong, fundamentally wrong with her reaction. She should be desperate, defensive, trying to explain or justify. Instead, she seemed calm. Almost satisfied. Isabella picked up her purse from the sofa, not in a rush, but with the certainty of someone who knew exactly what she was looking for. She took out a small leather notebook, the same one Alexander had given her on their first anniversary, when they were still two young lovers without a penny to their names. 3 days ago, she began, turning pages with steady fingers. Sophia came to see me at the spa. She was upset. She said you were planning something, a test of my loyalty. That your insecurities about money had consumed you so much that you felt the need to trap the woman you claimed to love. Every word was calmly enunciated, each syllable carrying the weight of a truth Alexander was not ready to hear. Marco, she continued, closing the notebook, called me that same night. He was distraught. Your childhood friend, forced to take part in this farce because you were too paranoid to trust your own judgment. He told me everything: the disguise, the bankruptcy story, the cameras. Alexander felt the ground give way beneath his feet. His mind raced backward, re-examining every interaction, every glance, every word of the last few days. Isabella's performance was not that of a woman being unmasked. It was that of someone following a script she knew by heart. "You knew," he whispered, the reality crashing over him. "From the beginning." Isabella nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving his. "I knew. And I decided to give you exactly what you were looking for. If you wanted proof that I was a gold digger, I would give you the proof. If you wanted to see my true character, I would show you exactly the character you expected to see." She rose, and for the first time Alexander saw the pain behind her calm, a deep, old ache that his constant suspicions had carved into her heart over the years. "Today's test was not about me, Alex," she said, her voice now heavy with contained emotion. "It was about you. About your inability to trust. Your paranoia that no one could love you for who you are, only for what you have." She walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. "You wanted to know if I would stay with you if you were poor? The answer is yes. I would. But I will not stay with you while you are the man who needs to test the love of the people you claim to love." The door closed with a final sound, leaving Alexander alone in a room that suddenly felt enormous and empty. He looked at Sophia, who now cried silently, and understood the true tragedy of what had happened. He had not lost Isabella because she loved his money. He had lost her because he was too insecure to believe he could be loved for anything else. And in testing her love, he proved only his own inability to trust, the flaw that, in the end, cost him everything. The real test had not been about her character. It had been about his. And he had failed where it mattered most. The real inheritance was not the money, it was the lesson that cost him the love of his life. The apartment that once breathed luxury and life now felt like a mausoleum of dead memories. Alexander remained motionless long after the door closed, the echo of Isabella's words still reverberating in every quiet corner of the vast room. Every valuable object, every piece of art, every imported piece of furniture, they all seemed to mock him now, expensive reminders of a fortune that had failed to buy the only thing that truly mattered. Sophia approached slowly, her tears drying in pale trails on her face. "I tried to warn you, Alex," she whispered, her voice cracked with emotion. "I tried to tell you your insecurities were destroying everything. But you would not listen." Alexander looked at his sister, and for the first time he saw not an accomplice in his paranoia, but a horrified witness to his emotional shipwreck. Sophia had not betrayed Isabella, she had tried to save him from himself, from the man he had become under the weight of his own wealth. Would she really have stayed? He asked, his voice so low it almost disappeared in the space between them. "If I were poor, would she have stayed?" Sophia nodded, her eyes full of a sadness that understood too much. "She loved you, Alex. Not for the money, not for the gifts, not for the lifestyle. She loved the man you were before success made you suspicious of everyone." The words hit Alexander with the force of a late revelation. He remembered the early months with Isabella, nights eating street food in the park, conversations until dawn about dreams and not about bank accounts, genuine laughter that did not need an expensive backdrop. She had loved that man, the carefree, confident man who believed in love without conditions. And he had killed that man, replacing him with a paranoid millionaire who tested the people he claimed to love. Alexander walked to the window, his hands trembling slightly as they touched the cold glass. Below, the city kept dancing, cars, people, life. Everything moved on, except him. He had lost not only a bride, but also his own identity in the process of protecting it. "What have I done? Sophia?" he whispered, resting his forehead against the glass. "What have I become?" Sophia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You became what you always feared, a man who thinks money is all he has to offer. And in the process, you lost the only thing that truly mattered." In the days that followed, Alexander canceled not only the wedding, but much of the lifestyle that had defined his recent years. He sold the apartment, gave away half of his fortune to charities, and simplified his life in ways that would have made Isabella smile. But she was not there to see it. She had left, not with rage or bitterness, but with a resigned sadness that hurt more than any hatred could. She left because she had understood a truth that took Alexander far too long to learn, that some wounds in love do not heal, and some distrust never truly fades. Years later, Alexander would find Isabella by chance in a modest cafe in Brooklyn. She was with an ordinary man, wearing ordinary clothes, laughing in a way he had not heard since their first months together. She greeted him with distant courtesy, her eyes showing that she had moved on, that she had found a peace he could never give her. And Alexander finally understood the true inheritance his fortune had left him, not the money or the power, but the painful lesson that true love does not need tests to prove it exists. It only needs trust to bloom. The greatest wealth, he discovered too late, was not in banks or investments. It was in the ability to love without fear, to trust without reservations, to believe one is worthy of love not for what one has, but for who one is. And that inheritance, he lost forever on the day he decided to test the heart of the woman he loved.